Carol Williams. I'm one of your admins
Back down
All right.
again.
on the Marion County page. And I already gave them your numbers.
All right.
Okay, next up, we have Bruce Cuff. Mr. Cuff has run for governor 2 times and is running again. He has been a strong man, willing to run in the midst of a difficult and formidable
873.
political climate.
And it's Carol, you said?
We are excited to have him address us today, so let's give it up for Bruce Cuff.
Oh, you already there?
John Parker out of Roseburg is the one that's handling most of the Facebook ads and stuff like that.
I just threw it out there in case we need more.
Yeah. Once I get the office, I'll be able to spend.
All right, well, thanks for having me today. And I want to honor the veterans out there. How many guys are veterans? Thanks for your service. I served in the Army, and my son's currently in Kuwait. It's 120 degrees every day over in Kuwait. He's been there. He's been there since February, hoping to have him home for Christmas. He's going to turn 21 in Kuwait, so he's doing great. So I want to tell you a little bit about me. I was raised in the Brooks area, and I went to Jervis High School. My dad was a barber in the Brooks area for 43 years, so that's where I got my political training. You know, there's farmers, there's business people that come into that barber shop and they could fix the state of Oregon. You know, years ago, the problem with the salmon on the coast, and these guys would come in there and go, there's too many sea lions out there, right? Let's just, I mean, there's 400, if you did a study on how many sea lions we should have on the coast there, there's 400% more sea lions than should be on the coast. That's what's happening to the salmon. We need to have open season on sea lions, right? And get this, here's an Oregon product for you. California sea lions made in Oregon. Gloves, hats, boots. I mean, it would sell. Okay, so that's one of the ideas. But anyway, I'm a native Oregonian. And like I said, I've ran 2 times before, and I explain myself this way to people. I'm a Christian, constitutional, conservative, Republican, and in that order. Okay, so what we need in Oregon, because I'm an issues guy. So right now, you know, you stated, I heard one of the guys state that there's a $1.4 billion hole in our budget. It's $22 billion the PERS system is behind, right? In fact, just this week, they lowered the expected rate of return from 7.5 to 7.2, which means that every single jurisdiction out there that pays into PERS is going to have to increase. PERS is only 71% funded right now, and when it falls below 70% funded, that more contributions kick in. So that's a huge number when you go from 7.5 to 7.2 on projections. That means that the school districts and whatnot have to make up the difference. So the problem is not that they're not getting enough money, it's that they're spending too much and they're spending it unaccountably. So you guys saw the measure that was on the ballot in November. What was the measure number for the $3 billion they're trying to raise? 98? 97. 97? Okay, this is how they tried to sell that measure to the state of Oregon. Schools are failing in Oregon because businesses aren't paying their fair share, okay? And I said this on the campaign trail 2 years ago. Schools are failing in Oregon because the Oregon Education Association won't turn loose of their failed, unaccountable monopoly on our school system to allow teachers to teach and for alternative forms of teaching, private schools, online schools. They allow private schools, they allow charter schools, but they cap the number of kids that can go there. So one of my ideas is a voucher system. If we give parents a voucher that's 70% of what the state is currently spending and let the parents choose where their kids go to school, there's a 30% savings immediately built into that system. And they can leave their kids in public school if they want. But right now, if you're a teacher and you're teaching in this public school system and you're looking at the PERS system and it's funded, it's only 71% funded, and you're a fairly young teacher in that system, do you think you're really going to get to retirement? No, you're not getting there. What I'm looking for is there's a lot of teachers who are trained who are having to put up with all the federal mandates and just anti-Christian garbage that they teach in schools, that they have to just say, hey, I checked my religion at the door and I got to teach this stuff. If we had a private system where parents and teachers actually could have control of that money and decide where their kids go to school, we could have prayer in school, in a private school system. We could have, morality taught. We could have the Constitution taught, I mean, all the things that we value, we could choose where our kids go to school, but there's an automatic savings there. So, but what the government's doing currently is it's exactly opposite of what they should be doing. Oregon is a personal income tax state, okay? They keep trying to pass the gross receipts tax, which is nothing more than a backdoor sales tax. When you tax businesses, Ronald Reagan said this back in the 70s. He said, businesses don't pay taxes, they collect taxes. It's just part of the cost of doing business. So if we tax Oregon businesses more than Washington's taxing their businesses, or more than Idaho's taxing their businesses, or more than California's taxing their businesses, and they have the opportunity to move somewhere else because our tax structure makes them uncompetitive, they leave, jobs leave with them, the revenue that the government's trying to generate, they're just running it off. So as governor, what I want to do is I want to make Oregon a business magnet for the state of Oregon. Currently, they pay $1 billion. Businesses pay $1 billion. When you look at the general fund, $1 billion is business tax. Pretty much there's some, lottery funds and cigarette and alcohol tax money in there. But the majority of the rest of that is personal income taxes. If that's what drives our system, then why are we trying to increase the taxes on the businesses who provide those jobs? It would make sense to say, look, let's give every business zero taxes in Oregon. We get rid of the excise tax. We get rid of their gross receipts tax. We try to reduce their property taxes on where they're working, and we actually say to businesses, Oregon's business friendly. Come here, bring your jobs, bring your manufacturing. Let's bring jobs back to Oregon. You talk about the mills being closed down, right? 53% of the state of Oregon is managed by the federal government, okay? BLM, U.S. Forest Service, that should not be, okay? As Oregon is a sovereign state, we should be in control of and the problem in the past has been that whenever we would try to sell a forest package to a timber company, it'd wind up in federal court, and we'd lose. If Oregon got control of all those forests, and you can see how they manage the forest. How many guys have driven over Highway 20 over the pass? See that forest up there? Oh, yeah. What forest? Right? It burned in 2003. The sticks are still standing up there. Every time I drive through there, I get mad. Yeah. Right? I took my son, first time when he was little, it was about 2006. I took him into this one in the Army. Okay, so that's 11 years ago. So he was probably 10. We hiked into Marion Lake. How many know where Marion Lake is? All right? Nice hike. Hiked into Marion Lake, wilderness area, told my son how beautiful it was. We get up to Marion Lake, we look across the way. I was all burned 2 or 3 years ago. And so the whole lake, and all the water that comes off Mount Jeff, where you camp on that side, all the streams were clogged with all of this debris that is just, they haven't done anything with it. So I would say this: Google Marion Lake and look at the satellite picture, and you can tell where that's been burned, right? So it seems like they're okay with our forest burning. They just don't want us to cut them down and get any economic benefit out of it, which is craziness. So we have to eliminate business taxes on businesses so they come here so we got jobs. I'm a huge Second Amendment supporter. you know, I hear people saying this all the time. Let's not use the word militia. That's junk. Militia is a constitutional word that describes the population of the state that's armed, right? It's a constitutional word. We talked about political correctness. There's one where they're trying to cram that down our throats, that they don't want us to use that word. Believe me, everybody that is armed in the state constitutionally is part of a militia, whether you're a group or not. You're part of what's protecting you from the government. You know, they're not going to come after you as long as you're armed. So states' rights. In the state of Oregon, I would like to see 36 constitutional sheriffs. And a sheriff that's a constitutional sheriff, they understand that they are the chief law enforcement officer in the county, and they have let the federal government know, the BLM, the U.S. Forest Service, and any other federal agency, including the IRS, that if they come into their jurisdiction and they want to serve a warrant, they need to go through the sheriff's office first, so he knows what's going on. He's the protector of the citizens of that county, because he is the chief law enforcement officer. My good friend up in Grant County, Glenn Palmer, okay? The U.S. Forest Service, they were drawing guns on people that had campfires, camping, and checking. I mean, so he wrote a letter to the U.S. Forest Service, and he said, listen, you show me constitutionally where you have the right to exercise any police powers in the county. He's still waiting for a reply, and they stopped doing that, right? So that sheriff in that county, Grant County, that's just north of Harney, you know what they call that county? It's called a UN-free zone. Okay? So you can't just go there and do whatever. The sheriff is going to protect you. So he's been elected over and over and over again. We need guys like him all through the state. We need to manage our own land. And we need to have natural resource-based businesses. In Harney County, I was just telling Bill Curry, you know, I looked at the numbers on Harney County. Back in the 80s, they had over 700 wood products jobs there. The base industry of that county was wood products, right? Today, this is about 2014, I was looking at the numbers. You know how many jobs they have related to wood products? Six, right? You know what the base industry for Harney County is? There's 300 federal jobs for the BLM, U.S. Forest Service, that make $75,000 a year. That's the base industry of that county. You think that's sustainable? No, it's federal employment, that's it. And there's 700 other jobs that are state and county related that are making about 40 grand. The average other person working in Harney County is making $24,000 or less. Unemployment rate in Harney County is over 10%. So, no jobs. But we need to have jobs. We need to have, like I said, get the forests open again. Here's where a governor makes a big difference in that. There's three people that make up the land board in Oregon: the governor, the secretary of state, and the treasurer. Okay, they decide what happens on state-controlled lands, and they vote on it. A good example was the recent Elliott Forest. They were going to sell it, right? They were going to sell that public lands because they weren't harvesting it to add to the school fund, and it was costing them money. So the short-term fix was they were going to sell the land so that they had money coming in. And so here's what's going to happen if we don't solve this problem. The state of Oregon is going to sell off the public forest lands piece by piece to cover the PERS shortfall. That's what's going to happen. They're going to do that unless we elect a governor, a constitutional conservative governor, who understands that Dennis Richardson's Secretary of State right now. Right? The other two are Democrats. We elect a Republican governor. We've got Secretary of State Richardson, Bruce Cuff. Enough is enough. Time for Bruce Cuff, governor, constitutional. We got 2 votes on the land board that says, hey, Oregon, we're logging, we're ranching, we're farming, we're mining. We're going to make use of our natural resources in Oregon again. And the other thing that they were fighting about this legislative session was affordable housing. The Democrats' response to affordable housing is rent controls. There's not a single economist in the country that believes that rent controls actually work. But somehow Tina Kotek, Speaker of the House, she found an economist that teaches at Berkeley, flew him up here and had him testify about how rent controls work. Okay? They don't work. So one of the other things that the governor does is that the LCDC, the Land Conservation Development Commission, he appoints all 7 members of that commission, and they control. When the city has to meet from the 1970s, the city passed, or the state passed the land use planning system in Oregon, and it established this. They have huge powers. Right now, they shut down. There's cities that want to expand their urban growth boundary for housing. I'm a real estate agent. I protect personal property rights. That's what I do. So I pay attention to this kind of stuff. When they want to expand their urban growth boundaries so they have places to build, so we can build more affordable housing, the cities and counties aren't even doing anything anymore, because if it comes to the LCDC, they're shut down. So why spend the money to try to expand your urban growth boundary? So one of the things as governor, I'm going to appoint 7 rural-friendly members to the LCDC that are going to push that back to local control, and so that local counties and communities can actually get the urban growth boundary expanded, so they have some land to build on. So here's the other thing. When I ran the last 2 years, I committed in 2014 to run for governor this year. At the time, I didn't realize that Kitzhaber was going to bail, and we were going to wind up with Kate Brown, and she's going to have to run 2 years later. So
Sorry.
So here we are. So I'm following up on my commitment. I'm running in 2018. But what I'm finding is that on the campaign trail, I run into lots of independents, lots of libertarians, other parties. They left the Republican Party because they were ticked at the National Republican Party, the do-nothings, and so they just left the party. And when I went door to door, I found out that most of the people that were conservative thinkers, a lot of them are independents. You know what? If you run in the Republican Party as a conservative in a primary, you can't win unless you have those conservative voters in the party. So one of the things we need to focus on is all your independent and other folks out there, other parties that are conservative, they need to re-register and become Republicans. Right? And I carried voter registration things with me everywhere I go and made sure. But I still had about a dozen people call me when they got their ballots and said, "Hey, Bruce, you're not on my ballot. I can't vote for you." And I said, "Well, you remember when I told you you need to re-register as a Republican?" "Oh, yeah. Well, I thought I was." And I said, "Well, it just takes 2 seconds to check, but after, you got till the 20th day before the election to do that, and if you don't, you're stuck. If you're an independent, you don't get hardly anything on your ballot, because there's nobody running." So we need conservative voters in the Republican Party. And I think that about covers what I was going to talk about. But we need number one thing we need in Oregon is jobs, right? And we need to control the spending. The spending is out of control because PERS is out of control, because we have an education system that is
49th in the nation.
You know why it's 49th in the nation in high school graduation rates? You know why it's 49th? Because Idaho doesn't report. Otherwise, we'd be 50th. Right? So a few years ago, we got up to 47th, and we were really excited because we beat out Alabama and Mississippi. But now we're back down to 49th. And the only reason we're 49th is because Idaho doesn't report. Why doesn't Idaho report? Because they don't want to. They understand what their rights are, the federal government, and they don't let the federal government run their education system. That's
second.
what's
Second in the nation.
second in the nation. So what are we up to now, average, for a student per year in Oregon?
Taxes in general per capita, second in the nation.
Second in the nation. How about what are we spending on schools right now per student? Anybody know?
Too much.
That's what I heard. Over $13,000. You know what it was 2 years ago when I was running? It was 10. 10,000. So we increased $3,000 a year per student, and what are we getting for that? 49th in the nation still. No accountability. Okay, so here's Kate Brown's base, Oregon Education Association and the Public Employees Union. That's who she's tried to satisfy. That's where all the PERS dollars are going. We need a constitutional conservative governor, and so here's a slogan from last time, and we're going to use it again. Enough is enough. It's time for Bruce Cuff. So enough. Time for Cuff, Governor. And when you're out there with the chalk, right, and recall Kate, what was that website again?
RecallKate.com.
RecallKate.com. Right below it, just write www.time4cuff.org, and they can check that out and check me out. Thanks.